And we can Hi, test coordinators. This is Wanda. Hopefully you have got your Performance Primary Administration Manual with you, as well as the intermediate one, just in case. So what I'm going to do today is talk with you a little bit about what's necessary for the performance task assessment. I sent you an email yesterday, I believe it was, saying that I really need for you to check all of your students' test data to make sure that those students that you have on your list are in fact those students that need to be assessed. So this year, we are doing Form D of the performance task test. Basically, the main thing that we're going to talk about today are listed here. These things, if you've done a performance test before, they are pretty much the same as they've been in the past. The big difference this year is that how teachers in the past had to write things on a whiteboard and then erase it. There will be PowerPoint that goes along with the assessment so that you can use the PowerPoint rather than having to use a whiteboard. So I would recommend that you log into the system and try out the PowerPoint before it's time to test. Basically, there's no extended time. There's in the Appendix B of the TAM, it will talk about that, just testing students with disabilities. Eligibility requirements, these are pretty much the same thing that they've always, well, it is always the same thing, but I wanted you to be aware of that. Where it's referring to the handbook on the website, there's a place that you can download the handbook if you haven't done that, but there is a password that goes along with it. It's all small letters, GT first, F-I-R-S-T, password. Here again, for the GT handbook, if you want to download that and print it, the password for that is GT first, password. Levels for primary are for those students that are entering grades 3 or 4, and intermediate are for those grades entering 5 or 6. So in other words, primary is for grades 2 and 3, intermediate for grades 4 and 5. Okay. Domains, verbal and nonverbal. Performance, and these are pretty much the difference between taking a performance test and a strictly paper pencil test. We do have manipulatives that I've already sent to you. If you don't have enough manipulatives, then I would need you to contact the Carolinian Consultancy Office for additional ones. I sent out all of the ones that I have. Pre-teaching is a very important part of the performance task, and it is something I want you to pay attention to and do some pre-teaching with these students beforehand. Material shipment, these have not gone out yet except for the TAMs. I sent those to the schools with some manipulatives that everybody should have received those at your school by now. I think those went out last week. There is a security test checklist, and then there's also an administrator checklist, which is for you to be sure that you know that you've completed all of the information that you need. The other shipment that's going to be coming to you will also include student labels and the test booklets. After the online training, you have to sign the agreement to maintain test security. It is on page 17 in the DAP. Test administrators have to be certified employees or retirees. And anybody that's handling test materials, for those of you who are testing coordinators, be sure that they are trained with procedures and how to pack and all that kind of stuff. All of the materials are secure, including the TAMs and also the manipulatives. And they need to be signed in and signed out, yada, yada. There is a sample letter to notify parents, and if there are parents who don't want their child to be tested, there is a DAP for them to, in the DAP on page 20, they should be stapled to the front cover of the student's test booklet if the parent says they do not want them to participate. The download for the PowerPoint from the C2 website, including this presentation, excuse me, there is it is password protected, and in order to get access to this PowerPoint, you enter password, all capitals, GIFT, G-I-F-T, and then the numbers 2345. Here again, for any of these PowerPoints that the teachers are using while they're teaching, this particular PowerPoint, if you're needing to use that for teaching purposes, whatever, you can download that using that particular password, all caps, GIFT, 2345. It does say that you can burn CDs, but I don't recommend it because then you got to destroy those. It's a bunch of mess, so just don't do that. Test materials. If a student changes schools, be sure that you mark the new school on the student label. If the school is in our school district, you could send it to that school. Otherwise, we'll just mark it, move to a different school if you don't know where they went, so that there's a record. All test administrators must attend a training session. Don't administer the test to close relatives. Plan appropriate test settings in a quiet place. Before giving the test, read the directions on page 6 through 7 in the TAM. On page 7 in the TAM, there are a listing of materials. There are some things like scratch paper or things like that that are not included in the manipulative kit that you would need to get together for before the test. Also, students do better when you have performed the pre-teaching, which is in the TAM. The pre-teaching is it's pretty much word for word exactly what to do, what you read out loud. Typically, anything in bold print in the TAM is what you read out loud. There's also materials that are provided listed, and then also the materials of what you would need in addition. So it's really critical, I think, that you do some practice with these students. And like I said, they're in both the intermediate and the primary, there are instructions in your TAM how to do that. Students should be tested in groups of 20 or less, unless you're only testing 24. If you're only testing 21, 22, then we'll just be reasonable. Y'all can figure that out. But typically, it's better in a setting less than 20. Verbal, you give a one day. Nonverbal is given on the other day. No pre-coded, if you don't have a pre-coded label for a student, first of all, make sure that the student qualifies, and then staple a copy of the profile sheet, which is generated by the GIFT program, on the front cover of the student's test booklet. There are no hand code labels provided. For those of you who have checked ahead of time and know that you're going to need additional test booklets, then this should not be an issue. You should have already received those within your order if you do that right away. I'm not sure when they're planning to ship out the materials. I do know they're at the printers now, and if we can get this information prior to the shipping date, then you should get all your materials, even the new ones that you need. During test administration, read initial instructions. Excuse me, on page 8, conduct pre-teaching, read an item and your lections, set a time. Once they begin work, don't answer questions. If a student does not take the test, circle the reason why that student wasn't tested. We do have the testing window of February 21st through March 9th. Then you do have the next week for any makeup test, but then all of the tests must reach Carolina Consultancy by March 17. And then if there are any additional makeup, then you have to contact the superintendent, and there's an office telephone number for that. For test administrations, the test booklets are arranged by school, by domain, and by security number. You need a header sheet for the verbal and for the nonverbal, and that's in Appendix D. All of the information on the header sheet must be completed. They are requesting that we not use abbreviations, that you write out the whole name of the school instead of like South Carolina Virtual Charter School. We use the abbreviation. We would need to write out the whole thing. Also, the package materials for return, you return scorable and non-scorable, including scratch paper, that sort of thing. Remember to sign the manipulatives back in with a count after they're used. Also, for returning materials to the contractor, there are specific instructions for doing that. Also, you have to return a copy of the manipulative inventory, non-scorable materials, and you turn the manipulatives back into me, and I store them here at the district level. For UPS call pickup, you call Carolina Consultancy to schedule a pickup for your materials. If they don't have if you don't have a daily pickup account with UPS, then they will arrange that for you. There is a mistake in the primary town for PVD1, page 12. The third line on the page should read, please advance to the blank slide. Anyway, y'all can read this. This is just some instructions about some corrections that they needed to make. We cannot change the pre-teaching or the items on the test. It is designed to identify GT students, and don't expect all of these students to qualify. They just won't. But we have in the state, since the performance task has been developed, more than 70,000 students have been identified through this process for gifted instruction. So it definitely is working. Important dates, the towns, those are the booklets that I shipped out that you should already have received those. You really should receive by February 13th your testing booklets, And if it's a little bit later than that, it may have to do if you end up having to request more testing booklets. But as you can see, we have a pretty short time window for you to request additional materials. We will hopefully have the results back by May the 9th. Happy testing. And thank you so much for tuning in to this. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I did want to tell you the performance task handbook that's also available on the site. The password to print that is all lowercase PTC GUESS, G-U-E-S-S. So that would be PTC GUESS. There is the 3 passwords that you might want to make a note of someplace, and it's also in the timeline for spring assessment that I sent to you last week. The password for the performance task handbook is PTC GUESS, all small letters. To print the GT handbook, the password is GT first password, all small letters. And the PowerPoint password for any of the PowerPoints on the site is capital GIFT, G-I-F-T, and then the numbers 2345. Thank you so much, and please don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions.